Alright, today's oil change day on our 10 kW Northern Lights generator. It's a 3-cylinder lugger diesel engine. We're just shy of the 200-hour oil change mark, but since we're here, might as well change it. So it's connected. Instead of like on a car, you've got to go underneath the drain pan and undo the bolt and drain it into a bucket. The drain pan is on the bottom of the soundproof case. So there's a hose that's attached to it with the valve. The hose comes all the way over here and it comes to our reverso engine oil change. There's an electronic pump in here with the impeller that sucks the oil out. And right now I have the discharge hose into an empty 1 gallon bucket. So if you look here, I just turn it to drain. Here's the oil coming out of the generator. This also tells me how much oil I need to put back in. I've got the manual. I'll look at the manual and make sure I've got the right amount. I'll be taking the oil filter off also and changing out the oil filter. If this was an empty 1 gallon jug, we'll take this to the car parts place and recycle the oil. It's coming up pretty quick to 1 gallon, so there's 5 quarts of oil already. And it's about out. That's what I was hoping it was going to be 1 gallon. I'm going to go a little more. Alright, so what I'm going to do is get another 1 gallon jug. Make sure I get all the old oil out. I'll tighten that cap so we don't get oil in the bilge. I'll put a cap on here. And I'll put old oil on here, but the color of the oil will definitely determine that it's old. We keep all our old jugs, so once I put the new oil in here, I'll keep the old one empty so we have ability to empty or store old oil. Alright, turn it back on. That's about it. The other nice feature of this is I can reverse this and fill it, and so I can get a new gallon of oil, stick this hose in here, and it'll suck it out and put it back through.
But you would have to have the hose at the bottom.
Yeah, you put the hose in there and follow it down.
Oh, okay, so it wouldn't get the whole hose.
Yeah, and I haven't done that even with the main engine. It's just as easy to fill the engine at the top. I'll take the top lid off here. This hatch opens, and I'll just direct fill it into the engine. Actually, right here I can fill it. This is the first time changing oil in this engine. So I'm just going to pour it in here with the funnel. Because this way, I'm going to close this valve here. And that's going to keep any of that old oil in this tube, not back into the tank, into the oil pan. All right, next step will be the oil filter.
That's it for draining the oil?
Well, the oil filter, and then put oil back in it. So, without trying to make too much of a mess, I've got a drip cloth here.
Oh, you're not going to stop. You're just going to keep on going.
I'm going to keep on working. So, there's oil in this filter. Some of it's probably drained out, which I'm hoping, because it will get messy here. Because it's a side mount oil filter, but let's see how we can get this off.
So that's the dipstick right next to it.
Yeah, there's the dipstick.
Alright, I might move my position a little bit here.
see if I can just take it off without this. This is kind of a large filter wrench. It's a little bit too big for this filter position. Let's see if I can just do it by hand. No, sir.
And so this is when we were in Norfolk, I went out and I bought all the filters needed for since our last oil change on the main engine. This might have been already in the boxes. So just a Napa 1085 oil filter. So we keep extras on board.
There it goes.
A little bit.
I don't think it's on here the correct way, but it's enough to get friction to hold it. There we go. I think this should be reversed, but it's enough to help me with it. This oil is hot. I ran the engine for about 10 minutes. You always want to run the engine, thin the oil a little bit. That helps it drain better. All right, so now I'm kind of committed here. So I'm gonna just go as fast as I can and go upright with it. And not too much spill. Ooh, that's hot. Just a little bit of a spill, but not on the end of the bilge or onto there's another oil absorbent pad that slid under that completely covers the bottom of the engine, and it's really nice. It's white, so you can look at that to make sure you don't have any leaks, fuel leaks. The fuel is dyed red, so you'd see red if you had fuel leaks. Antifreeze is also red in this thing. So it could be antifreeze if you see red or any oil. And I'm trying to keep the engine as clean as possible so you can see if any leaks. The dipstick had a little bit of fuel or oil around it, but I think that's just from checking it. If the oil slips down. I'm doing my best. These aren't lint-free absorbent towels. I do have a box of them. And it's a good idea to use those so you're not getting any lint in the engine, but I've got a pretty good view. A little bit of paper towel on the edge there. I'll get that cleaned up. Normally you'd put oil into the filter, but having this filter full of oil and turning it sideways.
But you want to put some around the rim, right?
Yeah, on the gasket. So here's
gasket.
Here's the same oil, 1540 Rotella. We use that on engine oil on all three engines.
Let me hold it so you can open it up.
Okay, there we go. So this is brand new fresh oil. Fingers clean here. And just lubricating this oil ring, this O-ring, Because if it's dry, and this is dry, when you crank it down there, it could cause it to twist and cause issues there. So I'm going to put a little oil in there. I don't like starving the engine with that filter not having some oil in. So the other filter that came off, I was able to keep about 3/4 full. So if I can get at least half of this.
And you should spin it just a little bit, turn it side to side, so that way it absorbs into the
filter material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Put another paper towel there to catch any oil that might come off. And 1, 2, 3, and we'll start spinning. No oil came out.
All right.
So what I do is I touch it, get it relatively tight, and I want to have a nice clean filter I can get a good grip on, and then I'll turn it 3/4. So this gold decal would be 1/4, 1/2, 3/4 is where my goal is to get it. And it's going to go a little bit further. I'll do it with bare hands, so I'll get a little bit more out of it. I had it pretty tight, so it may have went 1/4 turn, but we will start it and keep an eye on it that it's not going to leak. Never use a wrench to put them on, just hand tight. Okay. From where the rubber started, I kept turning, so I think we're pretty good here. Sometimes we'll put the date and the hours. I changed the fuel filter not too long ago. It only has about 50 hours on it. I'll check the thing, but the oil was just under 200 hours. I put them on a piece of blue tape so it's easier to read on the outside. All right. We'll do our cap. Might need a wrench on this. Pretty tight.
Maybe always check to make sure that opens before you change the filter.
All right, can you grab me a wrench out of the bottom drawer in the... There we go. Just need a little bit of persuasion.
You have a funnel?
I do. So I'm going to run, since it's been sitting a little bit, a little more oil probably went down into the bilge. So 5.5 liters. And it even states on here 200 hours. So this is 3.785 liters. So we might be able to get a little bit more out. And then of course some retained in the filter, which I'll pour into here. But I'm going to run the reverso. Open up the valve here. See if I can get any more oil out of it. More. this big wide open fill port. And we're not underway. I think it'll be pretty good. Just pouring the oil in. Let me close this valve real quick. That will keep it from filling up the hose. Alright, so we have a towel. First time filling this, it takes a little bit for it to flow down into the engine.
So will you let it run for a little bit once you get it filled and then check the level and add a little bit more? Or?
Yeah, once we get it filled up, I'll check the dipstick and then I'll turn it back on, let it run for another 4 or 5 minutes, shut it down, I'll check for leaks in the valve that opened for the drain hose and also the oil filter, and then recheck the oil. I'll let it cool a little bit, but it should be, when it's running you don't want to check it because the oil is splashing up into that tube and so it'll show it's hot. As long as it shuts down and sits for a couple minutes, you should be able to get a good accurate level of what the oil is.
Alright.
It's kind of nice to have a clean engine compartment and all white underneath here. This little black thing I saw on the bilge of the engine compartment, and that's part of a fan belt. It's the outer section of a fan belt. The fan belt's right above this. So I don't have a spare one on board, so I'm going to go ahead. We ran it. I looked. I couldn't see where it came off, but it definitely came off that fan belt. So I'm going to order 2 or 3. I have a couple spares on board, but I'm going to go replace that because if that's already come off that fan belt, it's eventually going to come loose. And if it comes loose, it can cause some damage, but it'll also stop anything that's running off the fan belt. I'm sure it has a little alternator on here. I believe the water pump is gear driven, but definitely don't want to lose the alternator fan or the fan belt. So good part of having when you inspect it and have a clean cloth and bilge underneath it, you can see if something's coming apart or leaking and fix it before it becomes an issue. It's a Heaven West Marine. This is a common engine for these generators. One of probably the bigger generators on boats are these Northern Light generators. It's a lugger engine, but
You keep saying lugger engine. I don't know what you mean by that.
so lugger is the manufacturer of the diesel portion of the generator.
Oh.
Northern Lights uses a lugger. Luggers have been around for a long time. A lot of Nordhavens and all, they use them. They're a continuous duty diesel engine. They've run forever at certain RPMs. And then Northern Lights attaches their generator, AC generators, onto these Northern Light generators. But the brand name of the whole unit is Northern Lights.
What were you doing when I walked out on deck?
Cleaning up a big oil spill, overflowed it.
Oh, you overflowed. So you got a bag there. You need a garbage bag.
Yeah, but wasn't too bad. This I think is, well, this is the shaft that goes through to the water pump, and so I believe there might be some feature of an oil-driven gears in here because it's just not going right into the oil pan. So it really it takes a long time to flow through there.
Okay.
But we're right back up to the fill line. So I went right to the line. I expect a little bit more to
go in the filter,
you know,
and the
flow
engine.
around the engine, fill the filter. But I doubt when the engine shuts down that the filter stays full of oil. It probably
It
just
drains back in there.
probably
halfway.
does about halfway full. But at least we account for the oil that's in that filter.
You just don't want to overfill it.
No, I didn't overflow capacity-wise. I just overfilled the fill port just a little bit. But a little oil goes a long way. Kind of made a little mess there. But we got it all cleaned up, and we'll go ahead and start her up. And I'm going to have you do that. So I'm going to have you go to the electrical panel, take it offshore, and just go to off. Then you'll come back, and I'll coach you or go through the start of the generator again.
All right. So where's all this taking place? In my living room floor. So here's the box with all the extra filters for the wing engine and the generator. I think oil filters are in that one. And that I'll just tie and put it on off.
That's correct.
Okay. It's on off. What about the put pass off? Move this to
Now we don't have any competing DC power from the generator.
so nothing from the shores coming on. Everything's off. This is all batteried. All right, now what?
Yeah, the generator panel will hold the low plug, which is the top back this way.
Do I need to put this on generator first? Okay. So walk back down the hallway.
So the top toggle is your glow plug.
All right, what am I going to do with it?
You're going to hold that down for 4 or 5 seconds, and then you'll pull up on the other one, which is your start. You'll release the start once you hear the engine start, but keep your glow plug on for another 2 or 3 seconds.
So I'm ready to start. Wasn't long enough, huh?
No, it wasn't long enough. So go hold your glow plug down again.
Okay.
Start it.
Releasing. Nice, that has the hours, the volts, oil pressure, I guess the water temperature. Make sure there's water going out. There it is. There's water. Go ahead and shut it down. I'm just going to push this bottom toggle down. Do I have to hold it in place?
That's good.
All right.
And go back to short time and see if it comes on.
All right. So go back here, and I'm going to go short tie 2.
Did it come up?
Nothing came on.
No needles came up?
No. Do I need to go to pass?
What's it on?
It's on off.
And I think they got to reset the short time.
All right, you need to reset it, so let me go ahead and put that back to off.
Alright, let me go reset the short time and have you kick it on.
All right, let me turn this off. All right, so you have the door of the generator.
So this is the sound deadening door. It closes the generator completely. It's pretty nice. And this is where we keep track of the hours. So my fuel filter I changed to 1300. Right now we're at 1354. So the last time the oil and oil filter were replaced, we're at 1167. So that's about 13 hours shy of 200. But a little bit sooner than later is better. So I'll keep this, and we'll get another one, and I'll add it to here. So I also changed the raw water impeller at 1300 hours. That's the water pump's a little rubber impeller at 1306 hours. That was in August of 23. And I did the fuel filter, which you saw over here, and then the duct valve is on the backflow vent that actually comes up through the floorboard into the cabinet.
Here.
That was causing the engine to shut down because it had a back pressure issue, and so we switched that out. Okay, now we'll start up the main engine. I'm going to let that run for a couple minutes, and we will go ahead and change the oil out of the main engine since I've got all the filters and towels and oil, everything ready to go. Okay, the step we went ahead and like I say, put the fuel filter from the wing engine out of the way. I've got it zip tied, so it's good to go. Also shut off, we have a battery shut off for the generator, and also one for the wing engine, and of course one for the main engine. I've shut that off. I'm sure there's no power now to the generator, especially because I'm working with the pulleys, but also with the alternator, because one of the power positives goes right to the alternator, comes off it, so I don't want to get shocked or anything with the wrench. All right, I've already got the 12 millimeter wrench in place. It actually broke loose pretty easy. Not the most convenient. These generators designed to go everywhere. RVs, boats. This one, of course, is a marine version. So I don't think any of them are real easy to work on because of the location and the minimal room that the boats have on them. But this one's not too bad.
So I heard the Tuscan Sun, which is another 48, they have 2 generators.
Yeah, some will have a smaller, like a 5 kilowatt.
There goes a jet overhead. Just gonna be noisy for a second. I guess NASA's flying.
NASA or Navy. All right, a couple more turns and I should be able to bring the alternator in.
Should say NAS. Boca Chica.
So I'm gonna have to reduce the tension on the bottom bolts and not allow it to pivot in. So I'll have to get a couple more wrenches and we'll continue moving the alternator.
Alright, so I climbed down into the engine room so I could get a look at the side of the engine of the generator. So hopefully it's far enough out that you can see the fan belt. He's loosening those belts. There is, it's like pink staining down here. He said it was probably from when they filled transmission fluid, and it just probably spilt because there's no leaks and it's dry. It's just on the bilge pad. So on the back you can see the insulation cover wasn't removed. And I'll go ahead and back out of here. Got a little boat yoga going on. Oh, I'm sorry, my finger's in the way. So you have the wing engine, which is I'm gonna say a Yanmar. I could be totally wrong on that. The fuel filter, which Jim just moved out of the way so he could squeeze back there a little bit. And I'm gonna pop back up above deck. Whoa. And you can see the wind is just howling outside the coast. Alright, so for me to get up, just kind of raise myself up onto the floor. So let's set that down. You're all set to put the new fan belt on?
All right, I got the old fan belt off, the alternator pivoted over just like you would in a car. And then here's the chunks that are missing. So I recovered one of them, but definitely there was more than that. But it's indication that this belt was either getting hot or it could have been just a manufacturer issue. It was tight. But you can see how close it is
So the
to
wires
breaking.
are
Yeah, see, it was
so it's
definitely
a lot of dry.
rotted. This is probably the original belt. I don't know if well, it doesn't have lugger. The new ones we have the name brand on it, which would indicate this is not the original, but it was probably changed out. The previous owner definitely did a lot of maintenance on this, so I'd say once a year. How we use it. I'll look at the book. I think it's 200 hours. It says check the belt. I'll have to see how often we should replace it, but that's definitely not what we want to break when we're underway at anchor on a generator, because this would stop, basically stop a lot of flow. The water pump is right here, and that would cause issues. Stop the alternator. I'm sure it's smart enough to say when the alternator stops, it shuts the engine off, and it'll shut it off with temperature too. But that's the last thing we want to have to replace when we're underway at anchor or underway.
Well, the generator shut off when the vents needed to be replaced.
Yeah, so it was showing the backflow on the exhaust. We have the loop vents that come up off here. It helps to prevent anti-siphoning of the water back into the engine. And so there was a pressure differential, and it said, hey, stop running. So it took us a while to figure that out, but we replaced the little butterfly valves in there, flappers, with new rubber, and it's been working great. So it's pretty good generator telling us what we need. So we'll get the new belt and make sure it's the same size. Hopefully it is. If not, I'll be on a bicycle ride back to the dealer.
They look same size, same thickness.
Yeah, and you can see this is a lugger, genuine part, and 02003 is called for on this generator. Best I can stretch. The old ones, I mean, as long as it's close, the tension will take it. Look just a little bit wider, but the groove is what's the important part, that it sits in the grooves. And those all appear to be the same. So we'll put it on, and you can never trust. This may not have been the correct one, but I'm sure it's a cross-reference.
I know.
Okay, we've got the belt pack on. It's all tightened. All 3 bolts are on there. I've got all my tools picked up. I cleaned out the bilge again, put new towels in there. I've got the battery switch for the generator start battery engaged again. So we're going to go ahead and start it. And we'll check. I'll make sure that the belt isn't flopping or too loose, and then we'll also check for our voltage, make sure it's correct. So we do a glow plug start. We leave that on when we start it for a couple more seconds to keep it running. So here comes our start. Good voltage, that means alternator's producing. everything looks good. The belt is not flexing or bouncing. It looks like it's riding the tracks squarely. So I think I'm going to do is heat this up with a heat gun and form it again, bend it out. I think I'll run it or so an hour without the guard on, just so we can see if it's in line and that little, we don't get the black powder again on that. That was probably from quite a bit duration doing that. So we'll keep an eye on it and go from there. Okay, so here's the fan cover. Well, not a fan, but it protects the belt, the fan belt from the generator. And this is a section that I was concerned about. It's melted down or it's been formed down. And this is, the belt was rubbing on the inside here, not necessarily here. There's some indication. So I'm going to use a heat gun. I'm going to heat this up and then see if I can bend it back into shape. This will probably take about 10 minutes of heating. You can see just the heat alone, I was going to use the tools to bend it up, but just heat alone and maybe gravity is straightening it back out. So I'm going to go a little bit further, and if it still rubs, I'm concerned about it rubbing here where the pulley is. I'll elongate the mounting holes and I'll raise it about a ½ inch so it's not rubbing on the pulley in the belt. But you can see it's amazing, it's actually going right back into its prior shape. Still a little bit right there I'd like to heat down. Very flexible once it heats up. So it may not have been over temping alternator, it may have just been the actual heat building up there and it caused it to droop down a little bit. So you can see it's a little bit more raised here. I still don't like that area, so I'm going to go back to heat right here. Okay, I'll let this cool off and I'll reset it, and if it's still too low on the pulley, again I'll drill these out. There's 4 bolts on it, and then I'll be able to raise it. There's plenty of room on the bottom, it's just up in this area, and we'll see how it goes.